Hey guys, it's Shama here from Retailing Weekly. This week we're talking about Band of Outsiders former Scott Sternberg launching a new brand called Entire World. Entire World is set to be a new collection of democratizing products ranging from average prices right around AURs of $55 a unit. This is significantly a departure from his old gigs over at Band of Outsiders, where the average unit retail was going into the mid to high 200s. What's super exciting about this, guys, is Scott is launching a product line that he's calling democratizing the commodified products, thereby bridging community and connection. Really beautiful and eloquent words, but definitely a mouthful, right? Can a product line really stand to democratize people? And this kind of reminds me a little bit of American Apparel, right? When it came out to say, hey, we want to be able to provide products for everybody. Now, Scott is taking a little bit of a different approach. He's looking more globalized. He's drawing on references from different countries, looking back at the products that we are inspired from, that we wear on an everyday and regular basis. And I'm confident that the collection is going to be different, fresh, and new as far as what the designs and the color stories and manufacturing is compared to brands like American Apparel. Do we think this is a great idea? Yes, I think this is a really great example of what former brand owners can do when they are really dedicated to, number one, the passion, when they start to think outside of traditional business models. So Scott was quoted in this article talking about how he's no longer just thinking about it being a wholesale brand or a direct-to-consumer business. He's starting to think about this as being really just a brand that exists, that's willing to engage and do business on a variety of different platforms. So obviously in the beginning, this is going to be direct-to-consumer, which is a great idea. Really able to help out in terms of margins and pricing for the consumer demographic. But he's starting to look at wholesale partnerships much more as content partnerships, and starting to see that as a way of bridging together marketing as opposed to really looking at these companies as wholesale distribution points. I think that's a really great framing of new business models. And then lastly, guys, this is also important for a lot of business owners out there to remember that the first business you launch isn't always the last business you launch. And I think that's a really great role model for other brand owners, especially new business owners out there who are concerned. You know, I'm spending so much time and energy in building this business. I want it to be big. But what happens when it actually falls apart or it doesn't turn out the way you want it to? There are second lives for business owners and designers out there. So I think this is an amazing new venture. I'm really excited to see how the collection develops and grows. And more interestingly here, I think this new approach and concept to how we start to think about wholesale distribution partners as really being content partners and as really being places for us to attract a consumer and not necessarily depending on them for exclusively the production orders, right? Making sure that we have other points of distribution as well, including online, possibly freestanding brick and mortar. I'm ready, Scott, to see what you have here for us. All right, moving on. Really exciting stuff. Dubai fashion showcase that recently happened, showcasing 30 different brands and designers that are focusing on the modern, modest, contemporary woman. We're now seeing a lot of brands start to really focus in on this niche, on this group, as well as starting to think about other types of ways in which designers and brands can start to segue and enter into a new market. We recently announced that Macy's was also launching their modest line, and we've all seen some of the new headlines coming out of Nike, as well as back in the early days, DKNY also coming out with a collection featuring hijabs and collections that were really catered towards modest women. Now, what's really fascinating about this, and I think this is a great thing, so cheers, thumbs up. What I think is really interesting here is what we can kind of start to take away as business owners. And I think it's very important that brands start to think a little bit more about going global, about who their customers truly are. I think it's also important to start to think about how we can expand our focus of advertising, as well as how we start to think about marketing and creative campaigns. Now, traditionally, a lot of the focus and emphasis has been on primarily the US market. However, guys, the US market doesn't only just strictly define itself by having a certain type of aesthetic. We are also looking at focusing on the modest category within the United States, as Macy's has shown us, and then also starting to take that messaging and apply that to a more globalized place, more globalized market. Fascinating about this is when you guys start to implement a lot of things on your Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, you should be looking at targeting more global regions. You should be looking at creating advertising and assets that are really going to be intended for that consumer marketplace. Now, this I think is very exciting. I can't wait to see what we start to do as far as modest fashion and these types of showcases in the United States as well as in Europe. Dubai is simply just the beginning, but this is definitely a market that we want to be focusing on and have on our eyes as a huge opportunity for brands that are looking to diversify. All right, guys, lastly, b8ta, was recently interviewed talking about how they are doing their own version of a co-retailing space. Their retailing spaces are renting out space to different brands, and they're starting to do a lot more in terms of providing a lot of data and analytics back to those brands in exchange for a monthly subscription fee. Now, guys, this sounds very similar to Rachel Sheckman's Story, which I think all of you guys are quite familiar with at this time, founded in Chelsea in New York. Story really also seek to optimize using technologies in order to be able to better track consumer behavior within their platforms and renting out those spaces to a lot of larger brands in order to get that foot traffic and see what products are doing good and not good. So what do we think about b8ta? Well, b8ta I think is cool. I think it's a great opportunity for brands that can afford to do co-retailing spaces. There are definitely some big takeaways that we need to focus on as you consider co-retailing. Number one, are the assortment plans going to be the same, right? Meaning, are you going to be featured and sitting next to like brands? Or is it going to be kind of a hodgepodge of different brands that are all able to pay the amount of money in order to be featured and showcased? So that's really important. What is the assortment planning looking like? Number two, we want to make sure this actually is affordable to your bottom line. So think about this. The information that you're getting in exchange from b8ta may not necessarily be sales. Even though 100% of the proceeds, 100% of the sales go back to the brands, you may not be getting the entire ROI on your investment if all you're looking for are sales in return. Right? You may have to start to think about other ways of measuring analytics and other ways of measuring ROIs, meaning what products are people most interested in? How are they engaging with your products? What are they talking about? How does it look and feel? And b8ta is starting to now focus, while it originally was started in technology, they're now starting to focus on looking into beauty and fashion sectors. But again, guys, merchandising is key, and we need to see how b8ta starts to explore that. And then lastly, we need to make sure that the types of environments and the cities and where the products are going to be featured is really in alignment, right? So oftentimes we think about, okay, this is a great idea, let's put our products in these stores, let's see how it goes. But you want to make sure that you're being able to really test market your products in other cities that might eventually end up being great places for you to think about having a pop-up. So guys, it's very important to think about the type of consumer they're pitching to, the location they're pitching to, as well as whether or not the types of ROIs you're getting back are ultimately going to be really useful for you. All right, guys, those are our big takes on 3 articles and 3 different business ideas this week. Hope you enjoyed. Please take it away, implement these into your business, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.